He was a billionaire CEO, used to controlling every room he walked into. But when he sat down to order a simple steak, his waitress slipped him a folded note that made his blood run cold. The words inside stopped him in his tracks. And in that moment, he realized he was not the one in control anymore. What was written on that note? Why did the waitress choose him? And what terrifying secret was waiting beneath his table? Stay with me until the end, because this story will take a turn you will never see coming. The restaurant was silent except for the low hum of jazz. Crystal chandeliers glowed overhead, their light bouncing off polished marble floors. At the corner table, the billionaire CEO sat alone, his silver watch gleaming under the lights. He ordered the most expensive steak, his voice calm, confident, almost bored. The waitress approached. She was young, her uniform crisp, her steps quiet. Her smile looked professional, but her eyes carried something heavier. She set down the glass of red wine. Then, with a hand that almost trembled, she placed a folded note beneath the edge of his plate. The CEO noticed, his brow furrowed. He waited until she walked away, then slid the note open with one finger. The handwriting was sharp, rushed, almost desperate. His chest tightened as he read the first line. It was not a request. It was a warning. The words were simple, but they froze him in place. The fork slipped from his hand, clattering against the plate. For the first time in years, his heart pounded with fear instead of greed. The note read, "You are not safe here." The room seemed to tilt. The music sounded distant, warped, as though the walls themselves were closing. In his eyes darted around the restaurant. Every stranger looked like a threat. Every shadow looked alive, and the waitress, she was gone, vanished into the kitchen. The CEO rose from his chair, but his legs felt heavy, unsteady. Questions swarmed his mind. Who was she? How did she know? And what exactly was about to happen? The billionaire CEO's pulse thundered in his ears. He gripped the edge of the table, steadying himself, scanning the room. The chandelier above flickered. A faint draft whispered across the dining hall. Though no doors had opened, he noticed a man in a dark suit at the bar. The man was not drinking, he was watching. The CEO forced himself to sit down again, his hand slipping into his jacket pocket. No phone. Strange. He remembered setting it on the table. When he sat down, now it was gone. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple. The waitress had not returned. The kitchen doors swung once, then stilled. He read the note again, as if the ink itself might change. "You are not safe here." The words seemed to pulse on the paper. A shadow shifted near the exit. Another man. The CEO swallowed hard, his throat dry as sand. He wanted to call for security, but his voice caught. Something told him that drawing attention would be the worst mistake of his life. Then he felt it. Vibration, not from his missing phone, from the floor. Low, steady, growing, stronger. The chandelier trembled above his head, its crystal drops shivering like tiny bells, and in that moment, he understood the note was not just about the people in the room. It was about something much bigger, something already coming. The billionaire CEO gripped the arm of his chair, his knuckles pale. The floor thrummed beneath his shoes, a steady pulse that refused to stop. Glasses on nearby tables rattled. A couple laughed nervously, thinking it was nothing more than the subway far below. But the CEO knew better. The vibration grew sharper, angrier, like a growl rising from the earth. Then silence, absolute silence. The chandeliers stilled. The jazz music cut out mid-note. As if strangled, every person in the room froze, caught in the same uneasy pause. And then a sound, a faint ticking. Not a clock, not silverware. A mechanical click that came from under his table. The CEO's stomach twisted. He leaned forward, his hand brushing against the cloth, and felt it, a small box, cold metal not fixed, tightly beneath the table. His breath caught. The note was no warning about strangers. It was about this. Someone had placed it there long before he sat down. His pulse hammered, his throat burned, and in that instant, the kitchen doors creaked open. The waitress stepped out. Her eyes locked on his. She did not smile. She only mouthed 3 words, "Do not move." The billionaire CEO froze. The ticking grew louder, echoing in his skull like a countdown only he could hear. His palms slicked with sweat as he pressed them flat against the table. Every instinct screamed to run, but her eyes, those steady, unblinking eyes, held him in place. The waitress moved closer, each step slow, deliberate. Cutting through the tense silence of the dining room, guests whispered, sensing something was wrong but not daring to rise from their seats. She stopped at his table. Her hand slid a napkin toward him, as though it were an ordinary gesture. But hidden inside the folds was a second note. He opened it under the shadow of the plate. The words were jagged, written in a rush. "If you move, it explodes. If you stay, someone else will." The billionaire's throat closed. The chandelier above swayed again, as though the air itself recoiled from the truth. He looked up at her, desperate for answers. But the waitress only leaned in, her voice barely a whisper. "Someone wanted you silenced tonight. But they underestimated me." Before he could respond, a sharp crash erupted near the entrance. The man in the dark suit had stood, and in his hand was a small device with a blinking red light, a remote. His thumb hovered above the button. The billionaire CEO's breath came shallow, every second stretching like an eternity. The man in the dark suit smirked, his finger resting on the remote as though he were savoring the fear. The waitress did not flinch. She reached for the CEO's wrist, steadying him with surprising strength. "Trust me," she whispered. Before he could argue, she moved. In one swift motion, she snatched the wine bottle from the table and hurled it across the room. It shattered against the floor, glass spraying like shards of ice. The sudden distraction was enough. The CEO dove sideways, dragging the small metal box free from under the table. The waitress kicked it across the polished marble, sliding it far from the crowd. The man with the remote pressed the button, a hollow click. No explosion, no fire, just silence. The CEO stared, chest heaving. The box was nothing but a shell, empty wires, no payload. It was a bluff. But the note had not been. "You see?" the waitress said, her voice steady now. "They wanted you afraid. They wanted you vulnerable." The man in the suit bolted for the door, but security finally surged in, tackling him to the ground. The restaurant erupted in chaos, shouts and confusion filling the once elegant room, and through it all the billionaire CEO sat frozen, the crumpled note still in his fist. The handwriting burned into his mind. "You are not safe here." For the first time in his life, he realized it was true. Not just in the restaurant, not just tonight, but everywhere, and as the waitress disappeared into the crowd, vanishing as quickly as she had appeared. He knew this was only the beginning.